In this lesson, we will demystify what AWS Lambda is. So I want to begin by saying that AWS Lambda is a compute service. What else is a compute service that we know of? We know that Amazon EC2 is a compute service, and not just Amazon EC2, but it can also be instances in Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, or any cloud provider. So fundamentally, Lambda is not something new, as it is a compute service, right? It's just a compute service. But then, Lambda is not just another compute service, right? Lambda executes your code only when needed. So instead of having my EC2 run forever or run for continuously for hours and hours or days or weeks, Lambda executes your code only when needed. And by that, it could be when someone uploads an object in an Amazon S3 bucket, the Lambda function is executed. So that could happen once a day, once a year, or thousands and thousands times a day. It does not matter. The number of executions does not matter. AWS Lambda will execute your code only when needed. And if you look at this image at the bottom, this is an example execution of a Lambda function, and the time it took was 286 milliseconds. AWS Lambda scales automatically. You don't have to worry about provisioning many servers as your requests increase. You can run virtually any type of application or backend service, all with zero administration. And finally, you pay only for the compute time you consume. There is no charge when the code is not running. So back to this example, for this function execution, I was billed for only 300 milliseconds. You get charged on increments of 100 milliseconds. Since my function ran for 286 milliseconds, I was billed for only 300 milliseconds. And at this memory size of 128 megabytes, a million requests per month falls under the free tier. We'll look at the cost at another lesson. AWS Lambda performs all of the administration of the compute resources, including server and operating system maintenance, capacity provisioning and automatic scaling, code monitoring and logging. So this picture that we saw in the last slide was from my CloudWatch logs. You can use print statement to log even more things when your function executes. So the framework for all those things are already there on AWS Lambda. Apart from the logs mentioned, Lambda also monitors things like failed invocations, number of invocations, and other metrics. And the metric window looks something like this, where you can see the number of invocations, the duration of the function, number of errors and throttles, and things like that. The basic ones being invocations, duration, and errors. So if all those things are done by AWS, then what's our part as developers? So as developers, all you need to do is supply your code in one of the languages that AWS Lambda supports. Currently, it supports 5 languages: Node.js, Java, C#, Go, and Python. The basic components of a Lambda-based app is something like this: Lambda function, where you put your code and the dependent libraries. The event source that will trigger the Lambda function can be an AWS service like Amazon S3, or a custom service, or it can even be a manual trigger that is triggered by you when testing a function. Now, one big part of a Lambda function is the logs. Logging is important because when a Lambda function is executed, when you have many Lambda functions, many executions of Lambda function, there needs to be a way to log all those invocations and see what succeeded and what not, and have some data for yourself. And you can do that with CloudWatch, metrics, and logs. Now we know this much about AWS Lambda. You get an even better idea when we start with the use cases and start doing labs. But for now, let's move on to the next lesson. I'll see you in the next lesson.